What's up, Dave?
Hey, how are you?
Good. How you doing, man?
Doing well. You're in Arizona?
What part of Arizona are you in?
Prescott.
That's right. That's right. So I met you, if you think about it, was it 31 years ago?
No, 32.
32.
32 years ago. Yeah.
When I first landed from New Jersey. And because of that meeting, people have been born, people have died, people have had joy. A lot of the Earth's axis has changed because of that meeting. You want to talk about us? Let's talk about our meeting and then we'll get to the music. Why don't you explain our meeting?
Okay, listen. I have attributed that chance meeting on a street corner to literally everything in life. My daughter would be here, my wife would be here, my business.
I'm losing you. I was losing you for a second. Go again.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Now I can.
So I can attribute a lot to that meeting. Chance meetings on street corners. And I've always said, you don't want to meet people on street corners.
Right.
You don't want to call out your name. But that chance meeting made.
Well, why don't you explain where it was? Tell everybody where it was, and then let's get to what occurred.
So we were at the corner of Broadway and Montgomery. I was going this way. You were going this way. Two dudes. I think I had conchos on my pants or something ridiculous like that. Very 1988. And we met in the crosswalk. And you looked at me like, oh, here's a guy that looks like me. Let's hang out, dude. Let's hang out.
Yeah.
And we just hung out. And you were like, no, what did you say? Dude, is it thrash metal night across the street? I'm like,
that's right. At the Stone. I was scared. And you were the only guy that didn't scare me on that street.
Death Angel was playing.
Wow.
Who wants to go to a Death Angel gig? I don't know. I was in a glam band,
Yeah.
So we hung out and we ate pizza. It was fantastic.
And what was the effect of that meeting? Like I said, now get back to the effect.
I was impressed. I wanted to be around you. I wanted to play with you. I wanted to play music. I hadn't even heard you play.
Right.
But, just the things that you said, all the signals that you were giving me was, okay, this guy's a real musician, a proper bass guitarist. I was really sad when you moved to LA.
Right. Which was weeks after that. Why don't we get to the effects that you went dark? You said a lot changed. You attribute a lot to that meeting. Go over again what you attribute to that meeting and how it changed our world's access.
I've had several intersections like this in my life. The first one was meeting you on that street corner, where I met a person who would have an effect on my life for the rest of my life.
Right.
And would introduce me to, all of the people that are still a part of my life. I had a second one when I ran into my wife, Diane, whom you introduced me to in February of 1989.
So we are saying, once again, your daughter, your wife, it all goes back to that meeting on that corner in 1988.
Yeah, it does. And anybody who tries to convince you that somebody's not up on high going, this cunt needs to meet that cunt right there.
Yeah.
Put them together.
Right. And then, I moved to Hollywood without you. You write me a nice note, you leave it in my mailbox, but you're there. And we are making music. Let's just cut to the chase. We do Filthy Ritz, Blackboard, Jungle, but let's get to the way music and life came together. They still do in our band, and we still have a band, which is crazy. And I want to tell you something that could bring tears to my eyes is, why don't you talk and I'll try to get to it.
Well, you've kept the faith.
Yeah.
If Kim Fowley were alive today and well, he would call you, hey, shit ass, the keeper of the faith.
Right.
That's what you've done. You've been there from the beginning, making all this happen. We're all very grateful to you.
And, I just want to quickly gratulate our friend Laz killed himself. And in his suicide note, he wrote, "The band will make it, Britt." And that always bummed me out because I felt like we didn't. But as I got older with the reunions and keeping the people around and what we did, I realized we did. And that brings a joy and a light.
Oh man, what he's won. Bingo. I've had people, because I live in a very different world than you do. I'm in this construction world, the shooting sports, and I've made a very nice ordinary life for myself. And I have these people who are constantly, hey, I heard you were in a band. hey, aren't you dissatisfied with life that you didn't make it? And I like to throw up air quotes when they do that. I'm like, no, absolutely not, because every single thing that's happened to me has led me to this moment right here.
Right.
Isn't this happy? You know, I wouldn't change a single thing of my life.
Yeah, that's what I realized. We did make it. We have made it, from the friendships we keep to the, like you said, your daughter is born. Without that Blackboard Jungle Band, a lot goes different. And you know, we had a system, and everybody looked up to you in our group of bands that we came up with as the God guitar player. Actually, Brent Muscat from Faster Pussycat deemed you the Marlboro Man of rock and roll. Not only did you look like a rock god, you played like one. You had every box checked in our band. You were the Sebastian Bach on guitar for Blackboard Jungle, still are. And my job, people always go, how did you write? I wrote most of the songs in a campfire aesthetic. Everybody took them further than my original vision, but I wrote them, and people go, how did you write so many good songs? And I always tell people, they're easy to write, they're hard to live.
I've analyzed your methodology over the years, and I've realized what you did. You did this with our fans, and you did it with your musical partners. I've been your musical partner for 32 years.
Yes.
What you do is build alliances. I watched you do this. You would spend this great amount of time with Kenny, and there was like Kenny and Britt time. You spent time with Joel. You spent time with me. You made these little friendships within the band that were, okay, this is Britt and Dave, this is Britt and Joel, this is Britt and Kenny.
Yeah, that's very well. I've never thought of that. You're right. Wow.
I've never done that way.
And it tore me up at times. I mean,
it's hard to do.
Yeah. And
you've got three guys that you've got to deal with, and you've got to get the best out of all those three guys. And you were working your fucking ass off.
And throwing Kim Fowley, by the way.
Oh, Kim Fowley is a completely different story. Right. Do you hear us down there, Kim? We're talking.
Oh, down there. That's great. So yeah, it was. But let's get to you now, and where music sits in your life. And you know, you once told me guitar playing is a side effect of my life. And let's get to where, I mean, you do something. I've talked to you. You're great at guitar. You're also great at shooting. And I tried to figure out the connection of why those. And you told me time moves slower for me than other people, which is basketball stars. A lot of great people have that thing where they see time differently. And I really think that's what makes things look so effortless when you do them.
I've analyzed that over the years, and I think maybe it's a little bit of adrenaline, because you have to remember something. The reason that I do this is because it makes me happy. It gives me a rush. You know, I've been chasing, like Eddie Van Halen said, I've been chasing tone my whole life. I just want to make the sounds.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a good enough guitar player. I'm not some guitar god or anything, but I'm good enough, and I've got these skills.
You're aware that people do view you as a guitar god, especially in our scene.
But what I'm really chasing, what I'm really trying to do with music is what I do every night of my life, which is, ooh, that sounded neat. And that's all I've ever done.
Yeah.
It's just trying to make something that sounds neat. It's a hand motor skill thingy.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about the correlation between being a fast shooter and being, you know, a tight guitar player. Yeah, it's a hand-eye thing. Some people are born with a little bit more of it than others. Some people aren't.
You know, Jeff Schroeder, I bring him up in every interview from Smashing Pumpkins, said to me, you know, the greatness in Dave Zink is two things. His attack is perfect, and you can't teach that. That's just something, the attack, and also he plays no bullshit notes. And that's what I love about him as a rock guitar player,
Yeah, Jeff Schroeder said that about me.
That's it. And just analytically said the attack, just the way you know, bite it, and there are no bullshit notes. And you've always said from Lindsey Buckingham, you like sometimes sitting on one note while the whole song revolves around you doing on that one note. You're very cosmically into that.
Angus did it too. I mean, he would have, you know, Malcolm and Cliff would be doing this, and he's going da na 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 na, and sometimes that's just what works.
Yeah,
it's all to serve the song. It's all to make the noises that we want to make.
Yeah. And who was there when you started playing guitar? Why did you start playing guitar, and what really got you in?
it's more complicated than guitar because music was something that I worshipped when I was a little child. I mean, I started off with Anne Murray, the Carpenters, the stuff our parents listened to.
Right.
I love. I've been in a band with a male baritone for 32 years, and I can't wait to have a female lead singer. For fuck's sake, find me somebody.
Right. Yeah.
I loved the sound of her voice, Karen Carpenter. I love the sound of Anne Murray's voice. By the time I really started wanting to own records, it was the Go-Go's, it was ABBA, and I just loved to listen to music. Guitar came along one day. I was at a Gemco. I don't know if you remember Gemco. You're from back east.
Yeah. Gemco. I mean, they made toys back east, but maybe okay. So it's probably like,
No, it was a precursor to things like Costco. You had to pay $1 to get in.
Yeah.
And so it was 1981, and I'm in the little. It was like Walmart, and me and my dad were in the sort of music, cheap knockoff electric guitar section, cheap little amplifiers, and I was asking him about this electric guitar, and I remember it was like turquoise green or something like that. And I said, "How does that work?" And he's trying to explain to me. This is my dad. He's like a union insulator, and he's trying to summon the. Oh, and by the way, the reason that he knew, and I wanted to show this to everybody. The reason that he knew is because of this. Dig the phone number on that. That's my grandpa Roscoe.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, dude.
It makes a lot of sense, Dave. Yeah.
Oh, dude, my first 2 guitar amplifiers said Zink on the front of them. They were made by my grandpa. No shit.
Wow. That yeah.
So my dad has some understanding of this. He's like, well, it's a fucking magnet. Fucking put form of wire around it like a microphone. And the second that he finished explaining to me, somebody dropped the needle on Back in Black.
Wow.
And I went, fuck me running. Is that an electric guitar? Is that what it sounds like? And my love of sound started right there.
Wow.
I was 10 years old.
And you have a hyper ear. Your sound affects you very. I've seen you walk into a club once. I remember walking in, someone was out of tune, and you tapped the bass player on tour on stage and leaned and tuned
the shit out of me. Yeah,
but you tuned his bass from the crowd because you, and even. Do you remember when we lived on Bronson? There was someone, they sold Mexican food or tacos or something from a truck, almost like an ice cream truck, and one of the bells was missing, and it drove you so insane to the point that you had to go out and offer the guy to fix his bell.
Yeah, it was like,
and you just couldn't. It just would bother your soul.
Like that too. I've got intonation problems right now with my entire stable of guitars because it's been the driest year in Arizona's history. I mean, it's fucked. I had to buy a humidifier to put in this room.
Right.
And it's still not like correcting itself. So trying to play like an old friend or California or something like that is becoming very difficult. And I just have to ride this out and wait for winter to moisten things.
If you could only play one Blackboard Jungle song again in your life, what would it be?
Where I'm at right now, what I really want to do, because I haven't fucking been on stage since 2019. I want to fucking rock.
Okay.
And you know that I would give you a different answer if it was, yeah, but it would go. That's what I want to play.
River of Love. Yeah.
And that's just the right now.
Right. And I love that. That's the right now. And what do you think the magic and the power of Blackboard Jungle and our crowd, because I feel like those are combined, our crowd and our band and, everything that goes together. What do you think the magic is for this little band that still is able to do these reunion shows and move so many people?
I don't know if you want to, hear this right now because you're the interviewer, I'm the interviewee, but this was a lot of your doing.
Right.
You put our audience together by forming all of those alliances. And I still talk about this. When I'm out on the range and I see people standing there with the shooting bag, don't have any friends, don't have anybody to talk to, I do as you did. And I go and I chat them up. I make a friend out of them. I make an ally out of them.
Yeah.
You did that with each and every fan. I swear to God, you probably know everybody in the audience personally.
You're right. I really do. Yeah. So
that's how it all worked.
And Yeah, it's crazy. And what was your process when I would bring in the songs? What were the goals? What the solos? I mean, who really changed you when you got to Hollywood? What really changed your playing? Because you're very George Lynch, very Headbangers Ball. We grew up, and then you took this big turn. What was that about?
Some of it was, wow, this is really cool. I'm in a really cool band. Wow, that's a really cool song. And I just kind of had to force myself to evolve on the spot to keep up with it. Because,
When was this?
This was 1989.
Okay.
I had to force myself to evolve on the spot because what I was being given to make a composition over, to do a guitar solo over, was fucking great rock and roll.
Yeah.
I couldn't just be the guy who shows up and goes shreds.
Yeah.
And that was starting to, I think, go out of fashion at the time. It's like there's enough Yngwie Malmsteens, there's enough. Who was the guy in Nitro? The guy with the 6 guitar.
Michelangelo. Yeah.
Michelangelo. Yeah. There was enough of that going around. I had a little bit of blues background to do the ACDC thing. You were showing me.
I can't hear you, Dave. Lean a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were showing me 3 and 4 chord songs that were good kick-ass rock and roll. It's like, okay, well, pentatonic it is. And I sort of tapped into that. I had some Lindsey Buckingham sensibilities. I had some Eddie Van Halen sensibilities. But there's a huge diversion between what Eddie was doing, what Angus was doing, and what I was doing.
And what was that?
Well, those guys had this talent that they could just tap into on a moment's notice and go, I'm going to solo in G and it's going to fucking rip roar. It's going to be awesome. Me, I had to compose. I don't know if you've ever noticed this over the years, but I'm still playing the same guitar solos now that I did 30 years ago in the band. Because I considered it a composition. It made me be able to play things better. It made me be able to choose, to be sing-songy here and there. You listen to Angus, and I'm not going to take anything away from him, but you listen to him, he's not a sing-songy guitar player.
Right.
He doesn't give you a like George Lynch would or David Gilmour, but he fucking kicks ass and he can tap into it anytime he wants. I didn't have that gift. Right. So I had to, sit down and really think about what I was doing. And you kind of forced me into that corner. I get presented with a great song that needs a great composition on top of it. That's where I was at.
That's great. And so that was your approach, right? Yeah. And you played with Andy McCoy in between our band Filthy Ritz and Blackboard Jungle. And what did he give you in that time? Because I feel like when you went away for that year to play with him, Andy McCoy from Hanoi Rocks, you came back a different man.
He gave me power.
What, come in?
He gave me power.
Oh, really? Explain it.
He hit hard. He sang hard. He spat into the mic. His dick swung about. I mean, he was just raw fucking power, man. He was amazing. I had never heard anybody in here. I've got a guitar here, like you do. I've never heard anybody go like this. Like everything was strength in his hands. Even if it was out of key and discordant, he still sounded like he was, beating his head against a wall. It was fantastic.
Yeah. You're right.
Go ahead.
No, go on.
No, I learned to kind of marry what I had a childhood trying to be a fast, quick guitar player that could be melodic, that could be sing-songy, trying to follow in Angus's footsteps and be a pentatonic player, which was fitting the music that I was playing at the time, and being a composer and being a hard rock guitar player. Andy taught me to.
Yeah. That's what I think that's a lot of the specialness of Blackboard Jungle. Now I've argued with you about this. Now we're going to get a little fun. Filling the stage. I grew up in a Poison era. This is one thing we've never agreed with. When I come to your side, you're supposed to go fill on my side. You never do that. Nope. Explain that. Explain. That drives me crazy, Dave. And you refuse to, and I love you for it. But so what it is it's almost like a football play. Singer up front, guitar player, bass player, viper room. If I come here, you come here and fill this. You refuse. What's that about?
It's not a refusal. I have to serve two masters. One is the cord that I'm dangling behind me, and And what a clusterfuck that turns into, particularly on a small stage like that. If you and I went like this a couple of times, we're fucked.
Okay. Okay.
We're going to be tangled up. It's just a thought of mine. And the other one is, I'm a fucking germaphobe.
Okay. You have, yes.
I don't want anything to do with your mic. I don't want you to have anything to do with my mics. I love you, but you stay away.
Okay.
And I was a germaphobe hand sanitizer weirdo decades before all of this stuff happened.
I do know. I remember sitting at Jack in the Box in '89, and you developed something, and I said, "What is that on your French fries? Will you explain to people what mooch sauce is?"
This will keep anybody from touching my fucking fries.
Come a little closer. I need you.
I learned that from the late Lisa Bellany. She was a girl that I dated when I was young, and it was mustard and mayonnaise put together. Very British thing for her to do. And I noticed that when I did that, nobody came over, because when you're a teenager, everybody wants a bite. Give me a bite. Give me a bite. Nobody ever did it again.
Mooch sauce.
I still to this day eat mustard and mayonnaise with my fries, if I eat fries.
Right. And then one thing that really excited us as kids that you turned me on to beyond music was across from English Acid. What was that burrito place that had you 24 hours, as much sour cream as you want? I always loved that. That was one of the things in life that made you happy. Let's talk about that.
You're killing me, Britt. Fuck. That was the best burrito ever made by God or men.
Well, and it was 20. What was, and that you love the unlimited sour cream was something that you would bring me to. What was, do you remember the name of that place?
It was called, let's see, there was Los Tacos, Dos Burritos, Dos Tacos. That was called Nice Burritos. Am I asking?
I don't think so, but it's next to the 7-Eleven across from English Acid. What's the best? And you're going to have to lean in a little bit more. I keep losing you when you lean.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
What are some of your best memories of being young at that time in LA in our band? And, we had a lot of lows. There was a lot of low days of nothing to do, but what were some of your highs? What was a high? What was a real special day?
I never liked doing the work. You know that.
Right.
I still, to this day, I don't practice, and try to perfect things. It's like, well, I just play. There's the thing I wrote, play it. So that wasn't my favorite thing. Practicing every goddamn night.
Yeah.
And you know what?
I know.
Oh, we were a great stage band because you
well, and I always say in your corner, when we would record, they'd go, "How long are we going to need to record guitars?" And I'd ask you, and you'd say, "How long are the songs?" And you'd say, "That's how long." And once they get sounds, that's how long I'll need to record. And that's all you needed.
Looking back, I wish that I would have listened a little bit more to Muscat. He was always getting after me to try and, "Hey, are you sure you don't want to double that? Wouldn't you like to have another crack at that?" I wish I would have listened to him a little bit more, because now with what I'm doing now, and I have a recording studio and an engineer here that I've been working with for a few years, Sean Morrow. He owns Status Studios, and he tasks me. He says, no, that's not, you're going to need to redo that. Are you sure you don't want to double that? Now I listen. Yeah. I wish I would have then. That's one of the only regrets. As for moments that I love, I think the greatest moment of my life was being at the first barbecue on Myers Street and finally realizing that I had a crew, that I had a group of people that really were going to stick with me and be family. And it wasn't just members of Blackboard Jungle, it was the people that worked with us.
Well, you mentioned who some of those people were.
Both of them, obviously, Greg Warkle, John Bobby, and Two Door George, fucking Brian Reedy, all of these people that made a little life for us. We were like a little family.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of Hollywood bands that were just about, being ambitious, just about trying to get a record deal. Everybody wants a fucking record deal. That's all they cared about. That's all they thought about. And we seem to have this whole, side thing of a lot.
I got chills you saying that, because that house, and I know we miss people in that list that you gave, but it really was. It was a team effort, man. It was a group effort. It wasn't just us.
And it was all nice people too. Like even the gals that were hanging around with us. fuck Marissa Tellez.
Yeah.
Look at her. She was coming around when she was a teenager, and she was a nice person.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had fun. We had cookouts. We had, piles of beer bottles on
Yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah. It was. You're right. That was special. And what's really special is that I wrote this song a few months ago that I really liked, and I was able to have Eric help me finish writing it. And you played guitar in it. I didn't even get to play in it. I get to co-wrote it, but you played on guitar on Love Me Enough to Hate Me This Much that we did with Eric. That was pretty cool, right?
Love that song. And that's one of those songs that I did over at Status with Sean.
Yeah.
And he drove me on that song. He fucking kept me in the room, was like, nope, it's not enough. Nope, more. Give me more. Nope, give me less. I'm actually very, very proud of that recording, and I love that tune.
Well, it's funny because my friend Monica in the comments when you were coming on this show, she goes, she only knew you as like, is this the guy that played on Love Hate? And I was like, wow. Like, I'm excited for her to see this interview. That was just where she stepped in your guitar playing there and loved it. So it's so cool. We've taken so many steps. I mean, we should have all of us on to discuss the magic of the reunion, but just so many steps. And I mean, you and I talk, we laugh, we cry, we're not afraid to cry to each other. You're one of the guys when I'm bawling or you're bawling, there's no shame in that to each other. And that's something that really moves me a lot.
That's something that comes along with people having experienced that formidable time in life, the youth. There are people who are permanently bonded to the wrong persons that had a youth that was fraught with drug abuse and alcohol abuse and poverty and all these other things. Well, we went through that formidable time together with joy and happiness and health, and look at us now. We're studs. We look great. We're healthy. We're happy.
Speaking of studs, do you remember when this came out? The Rolling Stone, when we were we had 2 pages in Rolling Stone. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Let me go. Dave.
This is the reason I could never run for city council here in Prescott.
Who's that stud? Remember that day? Jody Getz and Dave Zink in the bathroom. We had this page. Maybe I'll put it up, but that was pretty crazy. Just one of those nice little gems we had. Rolling Stone, Heavy Metal Nation, and the band with no record deal represents part of heavy metal.
She, you saw her at the last reunion gig. She's even more beautiful now than she was. When
she was going to come on and talk, but girls, when they Zoom, they want a little bit more time than 15 minutes notice. But yeah, man, we continue to make memories, and you were part of my support during this whole time and my joy, and even the rock world that I'm building during this time has been a big part of you. And your love of music makes me so happy. I mean, look at that. Harry Perry, the guy that skated down Venice. I love that you have that shirt on.
Dude, he gave me this. Harry saw me out in front of the whiskey in 2005. Me and my cousin Ian were standing out in front of the gig, waiting to go in. Harry comes skating up and he stops and he goes, "Hey, dude, you want a shirt?" I've had it ever since.
Wow. And before, that's crazy, man.
He put his kids through college doing that, dude.
And you love demos. You had his demo, I remember.
Many moons ago.
Oh. What when you were a kid and we're going back, what was your practice regimen for where you really would shed it and were learning to become the guitarist that you are? And I'm not talking Hollywood time, I'm talking bedroom time. What was your regimen to get where you are? Well, some guys learn off records, some have their teacher. What was your regimen and your hours?
Yes. Well, I don't know if I could recall the hours because I was starting at 11 when did I start playing? I think I was 11 years old. Okay. I just sat in my room, played a lot. That was that, trying to make noises, trying to make sounds. And then you reach a point where you realize that you need to do something as a guitar player. You need to be something and not just a kid who's learning chords and learning scales. You actually need to do something that might impress other people.
Right.
Get you laid. That was So I started kind of latching on to George Lynch and really trying to photocopy him. I had a friend and then go ahead.
Go on. I had
a friend and mentor around the corner from me called Steve O'Met. And Steve Omet was a protege of all people. What's his name? The Swedish guy.
Ingvar.
Malmsteen. God, I'm getting old.
Because you could play all that stuff when I met you. You were really in it. Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. I'm like I said, I'm okay. I mean, I've got some chops. And he was actually teaching me some of this weird diminished minor augmented shit. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but half the recordings that I do these days, I'll throw in a diminished minor.
Right.
Like a descent or an ascent in diminished minor.
Is that something that Ingve does? I'm a little lost. I mean, I know what it is, but I don't know what the sound is. Let's hear the sound there.
Yeah, it's like this. Here you go.
Okay.
Stuff like that, or like even the California Dreamin' solo. But...
Yeah. Very non-blues. Just
Yeah, and I just, and it's still in my soul. It still kind of is there because of Steve Omet. Fun fact: he's the guy that did all the music for the original Guitar Player stuff. Remember that video game?
Oh yeah. Wow.
Yeah, he went on to great things. Nice man. I haven't seen him since 2006. I had a dinner with him, and he was telling me, "Yeah, I'm doing this video game."
Wow, man, that's awesome. So, yeah, man, it's been a ride. Any last things before we wrap it up? I mean, we could go on 9 days, you and I, nine months, and I just appreciate you so much. That word's an understatement, and yeah, we changed each other's lives after a chance encounter in front of the Stone, man. It's
I forgive me.
No, it's just it's a wild thing. And I was actually, it's been a slightly rough week for me. And I just couldn't talk to anybody but you at this interview. And it really, I called you. And when I originally called you, I'd gotten dental work and your mouth was like all swollen. I was like, oh no, this is all I needed. My rock is gone. And then oh man, you came on and it means so much.
You know what? I wouldn't miss this for the world. Just so you know, all of this swelling right here and the medication that I'm on, I tried to go to a shooting match today. Gun came out of the holster. The first 3 rounds came out. My hand was shaking. Peace out. I'm still like not fully recovered. And I would have sawed my own leg off to be here with you, brother. That
means so much. And all your friends are watching this, Dave. If you want to say anything, a lot of people, the Boston crew, they're all here watching you. They'll be here watching you Sunday. Is there anything you want to say before we sign out?
Okay, Boston crew. None of this is possible without them. And we went back and we talked about the Meyer Street house. It was the best time of my life. It was the first time that I realized that there were people who really, really wanted to have my back and really wanted to make a life with me. I wrote more about Eric Lothrop in my memoirs that I'm working on than I wrote about anybody else, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. It's cool when you realize I've made a lot of friends with like a guy like Luke from the Fizzy Bangers. It's kind of weird for me that they are good people and they had a similar experience with their friends in a world. And it's nice to know that Hollywood was having not just ours, but a lot of these microcosms come out. And it's really cool that life worked out that way.
I mean, I was on stage with Luke last time and, he's my age, maybe a touch older. And, he went down a really wonderful path, a great path, and stayed, clean and sober. I mean, all of us that have survived.
He drinks, but he's not.
I drink for fuck's sake, but I'm talking about like nobody ever hit the dope. And that's why we're all still here.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to be making music together for the next 30 years.
This is true, Dave Zink. Well, I love you. And, I appreciate you coming on. I almost get sick. Appreciate's too small a word for what I feel. And, I'm going to end this interview right now. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and you stay on so we can talk for a little bit after. Thank you, Dave.